Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Refire Academy. This is Alige, and today we're going to be going over B executes and everything that's pertaining to that with splits and how to go out and everything like that. And make sure that you watch the execute version of this so you get the full picture of the whole map and everything that we talked about on the defaults, since we are going to have a lot of stuff that's tying into what we talked about there. Dust 2 in general is a map that you can fake a lot of stuff off of because it is like a very simple map and you can put a lot of pressure on the CTs depending on what you're conditioning. And at B, one of those things that you can condition is this smoke. So you can smoke out upper tons, and what this does is it doesn't allow anyone that's back plat to really see what's going on. If you're on plat anywhere here, you can't really see anything. And what that's conditioning is any type of pop that's happening. So if you have a whole pop that's going to be happening after the smoke is done, then they can't know that it's coming until you're already really close and everything's already happening, kind of like how it can look. So you'll throw this smoke and then you can have whatever entry flash that you want. So you can throw something like this where it's going to go out the tunnels on the right, so any player that's walking up on this right wall isn't going to get blind. And right before that, you'll pretty much be like, okay, ready guys, 3 2 1, and you'll throw the smoke. This flash will be coming at the same time, and you'll have a whole thing. This is always going to be changing of what's best, but the main key is that you're going to have like a whole pop that's conditioned off of this. So you can have that smoke that's coming as soon as everyone's throwing the flashes and it's having that first bounce. You're just throwing like a molly from one guy, molly from this guy, and you guys are just jumping out. You're having extra flashes that are going to be thrown here. We usually just call these window flashes on a lot of my teams because you're pretty much just aiming at this window and it's going into this little cubby. And any of these flashes are not going to be blinding you, but they will blind everyone here. There's actually just no way around it. You can kind of just see every position that you're at is getting blind except for like door. Even closet is going to get blind. In front of the car is going to get blind. Everything's going to get blind. So those are really strong flashes you should definitely have in your book. And you can have this pop in the beginning of the round. You can have it like 128. You can have it at 30 seconds. It doesn't really matter. As long as your upper B player on T side has the smoke later into the round, then you can do this and you can condition it. And something that's very important about fakes that people don't understand is you can't effectively fake if you don't have that strat in your book. And what I mean by that is if you're always throwing this smoke and you're not doing anything with it, why would a CT be scared? If you threw this smoke at me 3-4 times in the game and you never used it yet, I'm probably going to start disrespecting it at some point, whether that's the second time or third or fourth time. If I'm a CT and you're not going to use it, it loses its scare potential because you're just actually not doing anything with it. So whatever you're going to be doing on any map, not even just Dust 2, you need to make sure that you're actually using whatever you're conditioning as a fake. One of the other really common things that you can do towards B is you can do this walk the dog tactic, is what I usually call it. Is you're having your opper that has a really good spawn. Sometimes you can even drop this to other players. It doesn't have to necessarily be your opper, and he's going for this initial pick. So he's either aiming at the bottom if you guys expect him to peek on the bottom, or at the jump up, and he could potentially just get this pick immediately. And if he gets the kill, then you guys can just run out. And the riflers, when they're here, their whole thing is they're getting close, they're being wary of lower because we're technically not going to be clearing lower this early. And if he doesn't see anything or he gets the kill, then you guys can start getting close. If he gets the kill, you're pretty much just going to throw flashes window and you're just going to be running out with rifles. And I would just be swinging across because the chances that someone's closet while you guys are getting a pick on plat is pretty low. But I would probably just be swinging across, use your game knowledge and like how the other team has been playing to understand like where the second guy is. So you could either do that if you get the kill. If you don't get the kill, then the opera can either be posted still while you have a player setting up this flash. So he could be setting up this flash and you guys are just going with this while your teammates are already very close and you're kind of catching them by surprise if they're not using a smoke. And this type of tactics where you're kind of like having an op lead you out B, the op can even come up here and he can peek up here while your riflers are on the right and you still have flashes. These tactics are very good against teams that will molly and then save their smoke. And you might think that why would a CT ever want to save their smoke? Why would you want to just like smoke instantly tunnels? If you haven't like played a lot of other maps, you might be wondering that, but it's so the CT can have his smoke for later in the round and he can do something like this. Maybe he's jiggling. He could even be jiggling from here, and as soon as anything happens, he's just smoking and he has something to play around, especially if you're going to be doing like these conditioning tactics where you're smoking and you're mauling back plat and mauling sight. If you're a CT and you don't have a smoke, then you're going to be pretty not in a good spot. That's what I would say. You're not in a good spot at all if you don't have a smoke, and Ts are going to be throwing these types of things at you. So as a CT, you want to make sure that you have that util and you don't always use a smoke. That is where the Ts can definitely put you in some trouble. A lot of the times, players are going to be instantly smoking on top of a molly as a CT if they're going to be doing any anti-rush, or if they're just playing as a team that only plays in the very beginning parts of the round. Because if the only chances that they can lose is if you do something in the beginning, then I'm gonna make sure I molly and I'm gonna smoke on top of it. And if you try actually running through here with a pop or with a rush and you smoked out the molly yourself, then I'm already close to this and I'm gonna kill you. So that's pretty much like what you're playing for when you're calling something like this. You want to actually understand if the other team has been conditioned or if they're saving their smoke in any way. Whatever it is, that's what you want to go for. If you do get smoked while you're doing one of these, you'll usually see a lot of pro teams just cancel because it's not the end of the world. And a lot of the times the CTs don't even know. They don't know that you guys are 3 or 4 tons. So if you're going for this tactic, the CT is not going to peek. He's literally doing this. He's like, okay, he has his gun out, he smokes, and then he's going to just either run in front of it or he's just going to like hold and be anti for you to have potentially, maybe you're still going to pop through it, for example. So he has no idea that there's 3 or 4 here. Just cancel and just go with something else, or you can just wait until the smoke is gone and just go afterwards. But now it's a little bit riskier since you don't know if he's here, or back plat. So it's a little bit harder now. Some of the other things is doing any mid B split, and how that's pretty much going to look is you're going to be doing the smoke for top on the box. So you're going to be throwing that smoke so it covers the top part and the CTs can't shoot you over the smoke. There's a lot of different lineups that you can use for that, but it is important to have the smoke on top in CS2, and you always want to make sure that you're trying to molly behind the smoke. And yes, they can edge it if they're already here, but this prevents any rotate that's happening from the CTs. If they want to go through, they'll have to do this, which is a lot slower, or they'll just have to take ticks of the molly. So Molotov is pretty much mandatory. A lot of the times you want to make sure that you have this. It's just a lot harder to defend against people either nuking the smokes or getting flashed through it, or just timing running through it off of the CTs at window and door fighting. So if these CTs are fighting, then that's usually going to be a timing for this guy to just run through the smoke, because that's where like whoever's holding, the third player as a T usually only capable of holding like one thing at a time. But when you're mid being, you have 2 guys that are running up, and you want either your 3rd or 4th guy to hold for any repeaks or holding for them to go through the smoke, because you have to have someone holding this. Because if I run through the smoke and I go through the right side, I could just kill everybody. So you need somebody that's holding it. So whether that's a T that's like holding in front or playing kind of here, or he's holding outside a window, there's going to be a timing if anyone starts fighting. So make sure that you have that as a T, and be aware of like when the CTs can potentially exploit that. The next part of when you're running up mid B is you have to determine, okay, are we going to run through door? Are we going to run through window? And simply, there's not always like a best way of going through. I think it's always going to depend, especially if they already shot you window and you know that someone's window, and for example, you know the other guy's plat, then it'd probably be easier to just go through doors since you know that they're both right side. But going through window is a little bit easier as well, especially if you can get like a flash from the 3rd guy that's holding, because you could go through a window with that and you can just jump in, and it'll be very hard for the CTs that are holding you to get any kills. But I would just discuss, I think it's always going to change, and it's going to kind of depend on a lot of different factors. Got to be cognizant of when you would want to do either, and at what point would you want to go through the door or the window. For example, if you're throwing this smoke on the fly, it's going to be a lot worse to go through the door. It's actually just really not even possible, because the CTs, if the operator gets here in time, he can just shoot you over it. So if we're thinking about it from that perspective, you actually can't even go through the door without potentially just dying. So you are just forced into going window. But if you're throwing the smoke that goes on top here, then you have the door option now. Now it's actually possible. Now you can go through the door if you want. But it is going to be a lot easier for, you know, the CTs to kill you in this case. Like if someone's just hiding here and they just shoot you going through that, it's going to be a lot easier than if you guys are going through window. But it's not always good to go through window. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is how you want to go